You know, the bridges we cross every day, the buildings we work in, they all depend on the amazing strength of concrete. But here's the thing, that strength is no accident. It's the result of a super precise, unseen blueprint, a whole set of rules designed to make perfect concrete every single time.
So that begs the question, right? What does it actually take to guarantee a concrete structure will be standing strong 100 years from now? Well, it's not as simple as just mixing some cement, sand, and water. The real secret is in a super strict quality control process that starts way before any concrete actually gets poured. So in this explainer, we're going to walk through the 5 main stages of what you could call concrete's quality journey. This comes straight from the industry's own rulebook. We'll kick things off with the blueprint, then check out the ingredients, see how it's all made, find out how it passes its tests, and finally, see how it gets the green light for the real world.
All right, first up, Section 1, the blueprint for quality. Before a single bag of cement is even on site, there has to be a plan, a real commitment. This is where we get to the heart of why concrete needs such a strict rulebook in the first place.
Now this is really interesting. This is a direct quote from a quality control manual, and it tells you everything you need to know. Quality isn't just about materials or machines. It starts with people. It's all about building a culture that demands excellence and empowers everyone on the team to enforce those quality standards, no questions asked.
Okay, let's move on to Section 2, the perfect ingredients. This is where that commitment to quality stops being an idea and starts becoming a real, tangible thing. It all starts with the foundation of strength, the raw materials.
So, how do you actually guarantee the quality of these raw materials? Well, it comes down to a super important document called a MIL certificate. Think of it like a birth certificate for building materials. It's a certified report from the supplier that proves the material meets every single standard. If you don't have that certificate, you can't use the material. End of story.
And this just shows you the insane level of detail we're talking about. Every single core component is under a microscope. Portland cement and the reinforcing steel, they need a MIL certificate for every single shipment. And those steel records, they have to be kept on file for at least 3 years. Even the sand and gravel have to be stored perfectly to avoid contamination, and the water has to be totally pure. The bottom line is, every single ingredient gets verified before it ever even thinks about getting into the mix.
So now that we have our certified top-notch ingredients, it's time for Section 3, from mix to mold. This is where the science and production really kicks in, and those raw materials are transformed into an actual structural product. The whole process is broken down into 4 incredibly precise steps. First up is batching, where every single ingredient is measured out exactly. Then, you've got mixing, which is all about creating a perfectly uniform blend. Next is placing, where the concrete is carefully put into forms. And finally, consolidating. This is where they use vibration to shake out any trapped air bubbles, because those little bubbles can become huge weak spots. Every step here is absolutely non-negotiable.
And get this, before that concrete ever goes into the mold, an inspector is standing right there with the meticulous checklist. I mean, just look at the detail here. Are the forms clean? Are they tight? Are the dimensions exactly right? Is the steel reinforcement positioned down to the millimeter? Nothing, and I mean nothing, is left to chance.
Okay, so the product has been cast and it's been cured. But is it ready to go? Not even close. Let's move on to Section 4, passing the final exam. This is all about testing, inspection, and making the final call.
This brings us to the most basic question of all. How do we actually know if the concrete is strong enough to do its job? You can't just eyeball it and say, yeah, looks good. You have to test it.
And here's the number that makes it all real. A pretty common design strength for this kind of concrete is 4,000 pounds per square inch, or PSI. And to prove it, they make these little sample cylinders of concrete from the same batch, let them cure right next to the actual product, and then they literally crush them in a machine to see exactly when they break.
Now, during inspection, any little flaw they find gets put into a category. You've got minor defects, which are mostly cosmetic. They don't really affect how the product works, and they can be fixed. But major defects, that's a whole different ballgame. These are flaws that could mess with a product's strength or how long it lasts. And the rule is simple, the product gets rejected.
This all happens during what's called the post-pour inspection. It's a mandatory check right after the product comes out of its mold. An inspector is basically hunting for any damage or defects. This one inspection is the moment of truth that decides if a product passes, if it needs a little bit of repair, or if it's headed for the reject pile. Woo! The product has passed its physicals. Now we're in the home stretch with our final section,
Section 5, ready for the real world. This is all about the paperwork and the final sign-off.
Think of this slide as the final series of security gates. The post-pour inspection gets done and everything is documented. If there were any repairs, they get completed and then inspected again. Only then does the product finally get marked as acceptable. And, just for one last check, there's a final inspection right before it gets loaded onto a truck for shipment.
So here's the really important takeaway. Every single product that makes it out the door has a complete paper trail proving it's safe and ready to go. And all these records, from those first material certificates to the very last inspection report, are kept for at least 3 years. It's all about total traceability and accountability.
And that brings us to our final thought. The next time you see a massive concrete structure, a bridge, a building, anything, I wonder, will you think about that hidden rulebook? The whole meticulous process and all the layers of checks and balances holding it all together? Because really, it's that unseen blueprint that makes our modern world possible.